Hello people, hope you're all doing well. Welcome back to a rising topic out there that's been going on for quite some time, but finally some reasons behind it. If you guys have been searching for a video to really, just dump your feelings on a topic, that being Fortnite, whether or not it's an esport, well, today's your perfect video, guys. Today I'm going to be debating the side of which that many are arguing now that Fortnite is not an esport, or at least a competitive sport in my own book. I'm kind of leaning towards that way. Now I'm going to give you guys my reasons. You of course can share yours down below, but there have been several over the past probably year or so that Epic kind of continues to put out there of why Fortnite, in terms of competitive esports, is just really not one. So first of which, I do also want to preface, they've done a lot for the scene, right? Epic Games, and especially with their title Fortnite, has broken so many records in gaming, and they've done so much for the scene, and whatever the next Fortnite may be, I can't wait, because the groundwork has been laid out for widely popular games, and Fortnite was certainly that, and still largely is one of the most popular games in the world. So I really do enjoy the game. In terms of competitive aspects, though, I think they severely lack in a lot of areas out there. The first and foremost of my argument of why Fortnite's not an esport is the frequent updates before big events, which will never stop, as clarified by Epic Games themselves. Yes, for World Cup, there was an exception. They did publicly state for World Cup they would not be dropping any game-breaking, game-changing, meta-changing updates. For everything else, though, they will continue to update as frequently as they have throughout the past year and a half and beyond that as well. You can imagine, as a pro player, you compare this to a lot of esports out there, there's really only one that rivals in some sort that frequent of updates, and even then, it's not even close. That's going to be League of Legends, and Fortnite takes it a step further. Game-changing, game-breaking updates, overpowered weapons here and there, and you can imagine as a competitive player, a pro player, keeping up week to week has been incredibly difficult, and it's caused so many players to go full-time streaming or full-time content and not be competitive players. I think that's one of your largest arguments out there as well. And when you want a competitive game, you cannot change so many game-breaking things within days or even a week of a giant competitive event or tournament. That just makes you, to me, not an esport. I mean, one week SMG could be the meta, next week it's a rifle, the week after that they remove nades, they add nades, so on and so forth. All of a sudden a robot is a big cause of winning a cash cup. It's a game-changing thing, and you can imagine as a pro player how stressful that would be, where week in, week out, there are so many different items or weapons that are good or no longer good, and adjusting to that, it's really a casual tendency by Epic Games to update the game so frequently and in a way that really does not make the competitive nature entirely that, I would say, wholesome. Even more so, the second biggest point leading off of that is with these updates, they bring overpowered weapons, game-changing weapons and items that just should not be competitive whatsoever. The first three that have to come to your mind are the swords, are the planes, most recently the mechs as well. When it comes time for competitive nature, they dropped all three of those within at least 1 week, and in some cases with the sword, within a few days of gigantic hundreds of $1,000 competition and tournaments, and it was game-breaking, right? Planes, I think competitively, they ruined the viewership experience. Do you guys remember the old days when planes were here? How it was 50 people left in final zones, and they were all just still in the air in their planes, rotating, waiting to drop down. Along with that, the sword, that ruined a lot of winter events out there as well, if I remember correctly. If you get the sword, you get a lot of points, and obviously influence the standings so much. That was, I do believe, dropped 3 to 4 days before those winter competitions as well. Very lastly, mechs have not influenced too many competitions because it's kind of an off period here, but definitely many cash cups have been decided by mechs, and they're finally gone, and all three of these updates have been released, and I assume they'll be having other big updates as well that continue to drop before big events, which you do not see other esports do this. No esports out there, and especially when it comes to League of Legends or CSGO or so on and so forth, the top games, they're not introducing new champions or new weapons a week before a Worlds event, a week before MSI, a week before a DreamHack event. They don't do that because they're competitive games, and they take care of their competitive players, and they realize those big updates, they need time to adjust to, especially for pro players. And speaking of pro players, our third point out there, and again, you guys can always leave your comments down below. I love reading through them. If you want to argue why Fortnite is an esport, there are plenty of people out there who simply think, oh, they have tournaments, they have competitions, there's prize pools, boom, esport. If that's your boundaries, if that's your standards for competition, then there are a lot of esports out there, and that's fine. If you want to argue that, feel free to. I don't judge too many people in the comments section. In terms of points of why this is not an esport, when it comes time for competitive rulings, they have been outright ridiculous. Yes, we talk about this so many times here. That's going to be Ziff and Ronaldo. When you have two people who cheat for the biggest prize pool event of the entire year, if not in the history of esports, we've talked about, it's them and Dota 2. When you have a $30 to $60 million event and you have two people who cheated, by the way, yes, there are different types of cheating, but they break the rules to try and qualify. You ban them for 2 weeks. They come back 2 weeks later for the same competition and manage to qualify and each steal $50K from actual players who were not cheating and playing legitimately. That to me, or playing legitimately, that to me just still pisses me off to this day. The fact you can only ban cheaters in the biggest esports event of the entire year, if not of the last decade, and then all of a sudden you ban them for 14 days. They come back and steal spots from actual players who are giving their best, their actual best, and actually trying to compete with morality. Along with that, you have FaZe Sway, his 14-day ban. He was teaming in a Cash Cup. It was never fully confirmed. We take his word that he was also banned. And you compare this to the Jarvis ban, the inconsistency with bans in terms of competitive play have been pretty strenuous when it comes to Epic Games. And I understand this, okay? Jarvis deserved to be banned. He publicly cheated. He used aimbot. He used third-party services. He deserves to be banned. If that's the case, though, then competitive cheaters deserve much harsher sentences. If you want to stop cheating in competitive, especially in a battle royale where a setting, it's so easy to cheat. It is so easy time and time again. We have proven across several teams out there, Korean organizations, you're not safe either. It is so easy to team and to cheat and break the rules in a battle royale setting where it's duos or squads or trios, whatever it might be. If you want to stop that, which any developer should, then you would have much harsher sentences than 14 days. It's ridiculous. And that's my third argument. Now, every game out there, for your fourth argument, does have glitches. They have bugs from time to time. I would say when it comes time for nowadays, though, it's a much less frequent occurrence. I always think back to the Skirmish Grand Finals with Nate Hill, right? The redeploy. There's another debate about redeploy, adding that as an item, or Glider redeploy is back, then it's not back, then it's back again. Player voted. It's been a wild ride with Glider redeploy. And during those Grand Finals, though, one of the top placers was Nate Hill and his duo partner as well. And with that, if you guys remember the notorious clip now, right? Obviously, he died to that glitch where he pulled out his redeploy and then it didn't redeploy and he died. And with that, possibly costing him and his partner thousands of dollars, if not more, in placement points with their overall placement already being very high. That could have changed things even more drastically. Yes, they still made out just fine in terms of that event, but they could have made out even better. And so there was no comment by Epic Games, if I do remember publicly, about this, and no correction. Yes, it might be hard to correct it, but still no statement was ever issued. You're releasing game-breaking and bugged updates that aren't ready for competitive play, and so that's another thing that kind of goes down the line. Now, when it comes time for the fifth and final argument, guys, I think probably the biggest one as well, and happens to be, with the timing of this video, the most recent one. Ever since Chapter 2 has been released, there have been, well, yeah, once Chapter 2 is here, you know what's gone? Patch notes. How are you going to be a competitive game and change your game week to week, or so we suppose they might be, and then not give your pro players, your competitive players out there, a notion, a hint, or a full details of what you're changing and breaking down in your game? How can a pro player fully adapt if they don't know what exactly has changed, what's in, what's out, what's meta, what's not meta? It's incredible to me that you can actually change physical updates to your game several times over ever since Fortnite Chapter 2 has been around for quite some time and not release a single patch notes for your pros to try and adapt to. You're literally killing your game competitively. Yes, your casual player base, by the way, they're also buying a lot less skins, and your revenues, your profits are certainly going down. But seriously, it depends what the future might be for Fortnite. Maybe it will be a fully casual game, but if you're trying to preach yourself as a competitive esport out there, I've just listed my 5 arguments as to why Fortnite is not an esport. You guys can always comment down below why you think it is, or maybe why you agree with me, and add some further points why it's just not. Until next time, I hope you guys all enjoy. I know this was a bit more of a serious debate, but it's lighthearted. I really don't judge comments too often, guys. Feel free to leave your thoughts down below. Is Fortnite an esport, or is it not? Or how do you guys define an esport? Until next time, take care, drink coffee, have a great day, okay? I'll see y'all back here sometime soon.